Hi, everybody. I am going to talk about process costing right now. This is an in-class assignment from Dr. Burt's class. So if you have him, you've seen this before. I'm not going to go over the top question that talks about the difference between job and process costing. The answers are typed in there. You can see them. If you have questions, you should definitely ask. What I want to focus on right now is question 2. Nunez Products Inc. uses process costing. The following information is available for the current year. If Nunez uses weighted average method of computing equivalent units and assigning product costs, what is the cost per equivalent unit? How much cost is transferred out during the period? How much cost is remaining in WIP at the end? And we're rounding to the nearest penny. So process costing is when we make a whole lot of a uniform product and some of it's left in ending inventory and some of it gets transferred out because it's done. And so we have to assign things using equivalent units. So the first thing is it says that we're using the weighted average method. That means that we don't care about this. That's just distractor information. Don't pay attention to that. The next thing is that it tells us how much we have in beginning, how much we have started during the period, and how much is left in ending WIP, but it doesn't tell us how much is done. So we need to figure that out. So we're going to pull out our handy dandy, very most favorite WIP account. It tells us that we have 400 in beginning WIP. It tells us that we started 20,000 units, and it tells us that there are 6,000 left. We need this number here. So if we add these two, subtract this, we get that this number here is 14,400. So that's how much was completed and transferred out. So now we need the equivalent units. So for equivalent units, we need to set up this table. I hope you guys remember this table, right? We have the equivalent unit table. So we need the units, the percent that's done, direct materials, the percentage again, and conversion costs. So we know that we need to know what was completed and transferred and what's left in ending inventory, because this here has to equal this here, right? So if we know that there are 14,400 units that were completed and transferred. And if they were completed and transferred, that means they have to be done. They have to be completely done. We can't do anything else to them. So these percentages here are 100%. And 100% of 14,400 is 14,400. If we go back up to the fact pattern though, it tells us that ending WIP is right here. It tells us that direct materials are only 40% done and conversion costs are only 60% completed. So direct materials are 40% completed and conversion costs are 60% completed. And we know that there are 6,000 units. 6,000 units times 40% is 2,400 units. And 6,000 units times 60% is 3,600 units. So This number here is going to total to 20,400, as it should, right? 400 plus 20,000, 20,400. This for over here for direct materials is going to total to 16,800. And this over here for conversion costs is going to total up to 18,000. So now we know that as far as direct materials go, we have 16,800 equivalent units, and we have 18,000 equivalent units as far as conversion costs go. Don't forget that the conversion costs here, conversion costs are equal to the direct labor plus the manufacturing overhead. That's important information. Okay, so now that we have the equivalent units, we need to figure out the costs. This is all units. This WIP account is units. This is not money. Now we need to figure out money. So we have our cost report. We need to know the total. We need to know direct materials. And we need to know conversion costs. We know from the facts that the beginning inventory, it tells us right here that we started with 640 for direct materials and 980 for conversion costs. So we'll just put that in. 640 for direct materials, 980 for conversion costs. If we add that up, that's how we get over here to 1620. And then we also know that what we added in for this current period shows us down here that what we started during the period was this 333,760 and the 79,000. So we can add that stuff into our little chart here. So we put 133,760 and we put 79,000. If we add those, we get 212,760. We can add those two things up just for fun. We get 214,380. If we add these things up for direct materials, we get 134,400. And if we add the conversion costs up, we get 79,980. Now, we know, so this is the total. What we're looking for is a cost per unit. So to find a cost per unit, we have to divide by a unit. We have a cost, right? So we know that the equivalent units up here for direct materials was 16,800. So we divide this one by 16,800. And we know that the conversion cost equivalent units were 18,000. So we'll divide that one And so we get for a cost per unit is, we get $8 per equivalent unit, and we get $4.44 per equivalent unit. That's rounded. So now the only thing left to do is allocate. So we're going to allocate. We need to allocate the completed and transferred. We need the direct materials, and we need the conversion costs. So for direct materials, we know we're going to come up here, back up to this chart up here, and we're just paying attention to this line right here. So for direct materials, there were 14,400 units for direct materials completed and transferred, and there were 14,400 completed and transferred for conversion costs. So let's go back down here. So for direct materials, we can say that there were 14,400 times, that was $8. So that is equal to 115,200. And then for conversion costs, let's bring this down just so you can see a little bit better. Conversion costs was that same 14,400, and we multiply that by the $4.44. And for that we get 63,936. So this is saying that for completed and transferred, all the costs that we allocated to the completed and transferred out units was 179,136. That's what everything that we finished cost us. And we can do the same thing for what's in ending inventory. So for ending inventory for direct materials and conversion costs, we do this line up here though, instead of that top line. Now we're paying attention to this line. So we see that there were 2,400 units that were completed for direct materials and 3,600 units that were completed for ending inventory. So for direct materials, there was 2,400 units, and we can multiply that by the same $8. So that is 19,200. That's a 0. And for conversion costs, we just said that there were 3,600 units. And we can multiply that by this $4.44. And so that will give you 15,984. And if we add all that up, we get 35,184. So now these are in dollars. We can do our WIP account all over again. Just do that over here. So when we started, we had 640. We had 980. We had 133,760, and we had 79. These were all the things that we put into our WIP account during the period. We took out the 179, 136. That's a 9. And we have still left in inventory 35,184. So this is what was transferred out. This is what was remaining in WIP. And I believe we have answered all of the things we needed to answer, right? We answered how much was transferred out during the period, how much was remaining, and we figured out what the cost per equivalent unit was down here. This is A, this is B, and this was C. So if you have any questions, you should definitely contact me. I can try to explain it a little bit better. Oh, the other thing that I wanted to point out was that if you add up these two numbers, in this case, unfortunately, it doesn't, but if you add this 35,184 to 179,136, so in this case, you're going to get 214,320. That number should match this number up here. Due to rounding with the 444, it's actually 444, 33333. So due to rounding, you're a little bit off, but when you're doing the problem, you should go back and check, because like I was trying to point out up here, these two numbers, these two numbers here have to equal these two numbers here. So that should be a check. In this case, unfortunately, it's not a great check, but normally, in most of the other problems that we've done, it's been a fairly good check. So if you have any questions, please let me know. I hope you found this helpful.